Hello class and welcome to this Myst walkthrough right here on Video Games 101 by way of Let's Play with Brigands. I'm your instructor, Professor Brigands, and I'll admit, we normally stay in our lane when it comes to sticking to early console games, NES, that's our bread and butter obviously, but every now and then we gotta step out and do a class on a PC game, especially if it's one of the biggest PC games of all time, certainly of the 90s, in Myst right here from Cyan, the developer founded by the two brothers, Robin and Rand Miller. I'm sure Fluff will have plenty of interesting facts to share about them, about this game, this masterpiece, I was just going to call it, as we're playing the Masterpiece Edition, but whatever version you have, this Myst walkthrough can be applied to. We're going to show you how to get every single ending in this game. In terms of difficulty, I'm going to do another cop-out because this is one of those games where if you don't have a walkthrough, you could easily get it up there an 8, a 9, maybe even a 10 out of 10. With the walkthrough, much easier. I'm just going to average the easy side and the tough side and give it a 5 out of 10, which equates to throwing your mouse, in this case, across the room, or at least as far as its tethered wire will allow it to go. I'm assuming you're playing this on a classic 90s trackball-based mouse. Might want to pop the back off and give those wheels a quick scrub before we get into it, but yeah, plenty of facts to share along with this walkthrough, so let's run the intro and get into this Myst walkthrough right here on Video Games 101. As we begin a new game, note you can go to the options and toggle a couple things on or off, but nothing which seriously changes the experience. There's something called zip mode where you can skip past areas you've already been to just to quicken things up, but we're going to show you everything in this game beat for beat so you don't miss anything as we get a very cryptic intro here. One of the things which was praised about this game was the fact that it doesn't hold your hand, it doesn't go all in on story from the start and establish what's going on. The story is unfolded to the player as they continue on through the game. Very small team, you can see, compared to, well, maybe not a lot of the games we've covered here in Video Games 101, probably about the same size teams, but still, certainly by today's standards. And once you're ready, you can click on that book with that left mouse button. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the controls. We've talked about some of the easiest controls in the history of gaming with some NES games we've covered, but this might be a new record for this channel. Literally everything is done by clicking that left mouse button. Now your mileage may vary depending on your version of the game or what you're playing this on, but we're going to assume you're playing this on some sort of computer setup right here. You can hit escape to get back to that main menu screen right there and save on demand, load your game. But yeah, once you're ready, click on the picture in the book. We are hitting the ground running here. And speaking of simplified controls, you can see just you move that cursor around and it will change depending on what you can do. Typically the directions you can walk in, 80% of the clicking you'll be doing is just moving around. You can click on certain things to interact with them. Let's take this first switch right here, flip it to its upright position. Make a right at the top of the stairs, head up those stairs and hit another switch here. And then continue on this way. You'll see a note right here, just click on it. Important message, the number of marker switches. So by my count, this is our third one. So let's keep going here as we explore the main island of Myst here. There's our fourth one next to that giant Zeppelin, or I guess a standard size Zeppelin. As the case may be, that's number 5. Number 6. See, number 7 is across the water there. We can't reach that just yet, but that is number 7. And then follow up, kind of a tricky path to get back to that cabin right there, but that is number 8. And you could keep exploring. There's a couple more places to look around the island, but I'm here to tell you there are 8 switches here on this island. So let's go back to this starting area and push this, what ends up being a door, to the side. Go down the stairs right here. And once you get to this giant pot cauldron looking thing. Make a right and you'll see this note on the wall. Push this button. We can actually put in any of those buttons and get a little demonstration. In this case, this will show us the switches we've been seeing all around the island. We can flip them and there you go. Just a nice presentation of the switches. We're more concerned with that code that we learned by way of the note, the 8 switches. So we're going to set this to 08. And now turn back around and push this button one more time, but this time we'll get ourselves a message.
Catherine, my love, I have to leave quickly. Something terrible has happened. It's hard for me to believe. Most of my books have been destroyed. Catherine, it's one of our sons. I suspect Achenar, but I shouldn't leap to conclusions. I'll find him and Sirrus as well. Oh, I should have known better than to have left my library unchecked for so long. Well, I've removed the remaining undamaged books from the library and placed them in their places of protection. You shouldn't have to use the books until I return. But if you've forgotten the access keys, remember the tower rotation. Oh, and don't worry, Catherine. Everything will be fine. I'll see you shortly. Oh, wait, and erase this message after you viewed it, just to be safe.
She didn't do that. Maybe she never saw the message, I don't know. Regardless, he mentioned the tower, he mentioned the library. So let's head into the library right here. You'll see against the back wall, most of these on the bookcase, these books are destroyed, but there are 5 books which we can open up. And I'm going to click through each one at a time for what it's worth. If you want to pause this, if you're going for more of the immersive experience, you can read all of that. I mentioned there are 5 books. 4 of those books each relate to giving you tips on a different world, which we're going to be accessing here in Myst from this main central hub area that is Myst. That first book referred to Channelwood. This one we're reading right now is for the Stoneship Age with the constellations. You can read this once it's time to go to the Stoneship Age. And we got a couple more here on the middle shelf on the left. This book relates to the Selenitic Age. There's one more book on the right side of this row, which we'll use very late in the game, so we're going to ignore that for now, but you can see there's a musical code right there. Audio plays a big role in this game, actually. And then finally, this is the book which will be most useful to us early on here in this Myst walkthrough, as we are about to head to the mechanical age, which it describes. But don't worry, we got you covered. Alright, so you'll see also here in the library there are 2 books that have their own little areas here. The red book and the blue book. Put the red page in the red book and we'll get some very bad reception of a man going in and out. We can't really understand what he's saying at this point, so we're not going to give it too much thought. Put in this blue page in the blue book. This guy seems a bit more intense. These are the 2 brothers, for what it's worth, in Sirrus and Achenar, red and blue respectively. Come over here to the map on the wall, and then left click and hold down on this circle until it lines up and turns red in that spot we just showed right here. And this will rotate the entire tower. And to access that, we're going to click on this painting in the back here to open up this secret passage here in the library. Creates a little makeshift staircase for us. Just click on through. Enter in this elevator and click the library button, even though we're going away from the library right now. We're going up to the top of the tower. And every time we rotate the tower by way of that map, as we just did, we will see something new on either side of this area. If you go around the back of the elevator and you turn it to that gear area where we showed you, you'll see a little clue right there on the wall. Every time we turn it, we'll find a new clue. So this particular one, as we get back in the elevator, said 240 and then 221. So we'll be using that in just a moment. So you'll notice there's no door to get out of here until we click on this painting, which shows an open doorway. Fancy that. So let's head on outside now. And we're going to head all the way down to where we saw that switch we could not reach. So 240 was the clue, so let's see if we can't set this clock up here to be 240. The big valve right here controls the minute hand, so we want to turn that 8 times. Ultimately, click on it 8 times, and then twice for the smaller one. And there we go, 240, last I checked. Press that red button, and if you put in the appropriate code and the clock looks like that, then you can cross over. We'll hit that last switch. And now, to get the 221 right here, we need to apply pressure to these levers right here. So click this middle slash, I guess, the right of these two right here, and just pull it down very quickly and let go twice. And that'll get that 2 in the top position. And then this middle and bottom gear, these can both be controlled by this left handle right here. If you make a mistake, you just pull that rightmost top handle right there. So once again, let's pull that left one a little bit longer, and you can see right there, it just, if you do it just right like we show, you'll get 221, and the little gear will open up. Might be a head scratcher as to what that accomplished, but if you recall, one of those first switches which we flipped, there was a giant gear just to the side of it. So let's go back to the start of the island, and you will now see it's opened up, and there's a book which will take us, once we click on that picture, to the Mechanical Age, our first proper area here in Myst outside of the main Myst island. And it'll just give you this flyby shot right here until we click through. This was cutting edge for 1993 class. I still have a soft spot for early 3D animation in games like this. By the way, you can do these in any order. I just like to start with the Mechanical Age because I think it's generally the simplest in terms of its puzzles. It's a nice way to start the game, but the ultimate goal of this game is to collect all of the pages for each of the brothers. There are 4 for each of them, 4 red, 4 blue, 1 of each in each of these worlds. So first, let's enter this building on this island. We're going to go right at that fork, and then turn left here and look at this throne, and push this panel next to the throne, and you'll find the first blue page outside of that initial one, I suppose, back on the main island of Myst. But with that in your hand, go around back, just keep continuing around and hit this red button right here, and we're going to need to push a lever at the bottom of these stairs, and just hold it up until there's an opening at the bottom ring of circles. You just have to do it for about a second right there, as you can see, then let go. Might need to give that a few tries, but once that circle's open at the bottom, that will reflect here in our elevator access as we hit that button again to replace the stairs, and then push the up button here on the elevator. Once we get to the top, we're going to hit the rectangular button and then step off, and this is going to allow us to access the controls at the top. Controlled by 2 different levers. This is the first of many sound-based puzzles here in Myst. So there's 2 levers that we're going to have to push forward. The left one always stays in position after you push it up, and then you just apply pressure, pushing up that right one for a limited amount of time. So just do it for this first time, about a second, then pull it back, pull the left one back, and you'll hear that kind of spring kind of sound. If that's the sound you hear, then press that red button right there, and that will rotate the tower so we can access, or the island here, so we can access another one of the miniature islands we wouldn't otherwise be able to get to. So let's just go back out the front, cutting through the bedrooms. There's 2 bedrooms, 1 for each brother on both sides, but once you get off, you'll see these 2 symbols here, if you heard that spring and rotated thing. So we got the circle with 3 arrows underneath it, and then we have the half circle right there. So those are actually the back, and we're just going to repeat this process again, going back to the top. But those were 2 of the 4 symbols which we'll need to input as part of a button combination, a symbol combination, to actually get out of here with the page that we found. And it's the same process. We're going to push the left lever up and then push the right one and hold the right one for about a second, second and a half, and then let go. And we should hear a little ping sound. All right, if you heard that, push the button. That's the sound associated with the north direction here in Myst. For what it's worth, we'll be using that a little bit later, so it's important to remember that. Again, with this walkthrough, we will do that for you. Don't worry about that, but... So we'll take down the elevator once again, same process as the last time, and this time we're going to get the remaining two symbols, or the first two symbols actually, for the combination here. Alright, so 3/4 of a circle, basically, and then a long rectangle surrounded by two triangles. So those are the first two symbols which we'll need, and then we'll finish it off with the two which we got earlier. So now we just need to get the building facing back south where it was initially facing to get back to the exit. We're going counterclockwise, essentially, here. We went east, which was that springing sound, north, which was the ping sound. And then if we do this again, if we do it short, like we've been doing the same amount of time, yeah, you'll hear that kind of a scrunch sound. That's the west. Again, we'll keep that in mind for later, but once you hear that, more of a low pitch, kind of a cowbell, like a lower pitched ping, but let's just call it the cowbell for south, then you know you're in the right spot. Not the most efficient way, I would think, to move this thing around. Be helpful if you knew which way you were looking at, but again, it's part of the fun, part of the puzzle solving right here. Alright, so we'll grab the other page of the book, as we can only hold one at a time for whatever reason, but let's input our symbols now. So we got that 3/4 circle, and now we have the two triangles which are surrounding the rectangle. The third one was the three triangles below that circle, and then the half circle for the final. And that will open up if you put it in correctly. Go through the book. This will put you back in the library, looking up at the ceiling. Beautiful. And then turn to the right here and just click that blue page on that book. And you'll get a little bit more reception. But quite honestly, it's not enough to make out right now, so not a whole lot of point in sticking around and listening to the scrambled bits which we can hear. So now we need to head back to the mechanical age, same way we did before. And we're going to get the other page from the other brother's room, a hidden passage in their room, Sirrus's room this time. And while we're doing that, let's bring him in for the first time today to give us our first Fluff fact about Myst. Here's Fluff.
Myst is an adventure game initially released for the Macintosh computer in September of 1993, which sees players exploring and solving puzzles in a variety of environments on pre-rendered imagery. The game was designed by Cyan, a video game developer founded by Washington State brothers Rand and Robin Miller in 1987, which incidentally remains the oldest independent game studio in the US, which is still active today. The game was made by a very small team, chiefly consisting of the Miller brothers and Rand and Robin, who incidentally also play the two brothers Sirrus and Achenar in the game respectively, with Rand also portraying the father of the brothers, Achenar. The brothers got their start creating relatively simplistic first-person point-and-click games for kids, like 1991's educational Spelunks. Wanting to create something more complicated and graphically impressive for adults, which would focus on ethical choices and puzzle solving, they began shopping around their idea to publishers. While well-known publisher Activision told them to abandon the idea in favor of focusing on kids' games, Sunsoft, the Japanese developer behind a number of NES titles we've held classes on, in Blaster Master, Fester's Quest, and Batman, reached out to the Millers to create a game like the one they envisioned. While Sunsoft wasn't interested in the home computer market, they agreed to bankroll Cyan after both seeing a short early proposal of Myst and being assured by the Miller brothers that their game would be as good as the upcoming first-person puzzle adventure game 1993's The Seventh Guest, which had built a lot of anticipation on the strength of strong preview demonstrations. while Sunsoft acted as publisher for some of the subsequent console ports, like the 3DO and Sega Saturn. Cyan's publisher on a couple previous titles, and Broderbund was the publisher upon the game's initial September 1993 release for the Macintosh. Myst quickly went on to become a massive critical and commercial success, with critics praising the immersive feel of the game, and with sales exceeding 6 million copies for the PC market alone, not even counting the dozens of ports or remakes. Myst held the title of the best-selling PC game of all time for nearly a decade, until it was finally overtaken by The Sims in 2002.
Alright, thank you, Fluff. So back in the library, we've deposited that red page, and now we're going to move this once again, the tower, to the next red line. We're just going to go clockwise here, starting with mechanical, and now we're just going to have it lined up with the pier down there. So once again, we need to close the front door by hitting this painting, and this will open up the tower once again, and we can get our next clue as to how to access that next age. For what it's worth, you can speed up the animations by pressing the escape key, as we just did right there, and you can peek out and see which way you're facing every time. But the main thing to grab from the tower is always behind the elevator. So we climb the ladder, and this time we're going to get some dates which we'll input into the Myst Island Planetarium. So you can write those down or just follow along with this walkthrough. That's what I personally recommend. I've already done that for us. So let's go down the ladder, go back around. And we didn't open the door to the planetarium yet, but we passed it en route to the library. We walked right by it. We're going to go in there and we're going to input all of the various, as we once again hit the front door painting right here to open that up. Just hit escape on each of those animations to speed it up just a hair. And then hang left outside of the library, open the door. Looks like a dental office right here. Thankfully, no, this is a planetarium. Turn around and turn off the light. You don't need to close the door apparently, but then aim up at the controls here, and we're just gonna pull these sliders for the macro movements, and then the more surgical once we get close, as this first one was once again October 11th, 1984 at 10:04. Anybody's birthday, by the way? We can write down that constellation right there. And if we go back to the library, we can take out that book which was on the Stoneship Age, and then match each of these constellation symbols, these formations, with their corresponding pictures in the book. And then those will tell us essentially the different buttons which we need to push in this next area. So the second one, January 7th, 1207 at 5:46 a.m. Willing to bet that's no one here's birthday. Or birth year, better said. And then November 23rd, all the way to 97. 91. And then this is actually PM this time. So we want to pull this down. There's no symbol or sound or anything which lets you know that you're in the right spot. You just have to remember or write down what we saw back in the tower. And here is our final constellation. Kind of looks like a bug of some sort, perhaps? I don't know. Let's head back to the library, where we can take out the book on the Stoneship Age, this top right one right here, the gray one. Flip through all these first pages, and then you get into the constellation. So I think we saw the snake right there, the triangle formation. That might be the bug that I was referring to with that last one. And then right here, the leaf. So, not sure what order we clicked those in at the planetarium. It doesn't matter, but come around the fountain here, and then we're just going to find and click on the symbols, and just click on each of these little boxes here to get a close-up on it so you can actually see what it is. So we had the snake, the beetle, and the leaf. Those were the three. Or maybe that's a tick, I don't know. But anyway, you hear some water moving, the sound of water filling up in the background, possibly in that fountain. But more importantly, down by the dock. So that is our next point. You can see we have a little model ship that is floated to the top right there, indicating that, look at that. Ship has risen from the depths of the sea right here. So let's board the ship, head downstairs into the quarters, and on this chair, you'll find access to the Stoneship Age. Once again, you can enjoy the flyby right here if you like. So we're getting a little more challenging here in the Stoneship Age. Possibly, I don't know. Depends how difficult you thought the Mechanical Age was. So one of the mechanisms of the Stoneship Age is pumping and redistributing water in different areas of the area which we can move about in. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is head to the left here and go down to this little umbrella dock and click the right button, and you'll hear what sounds like a pump starting to go to work. So we can now access, as we cut through here, this area which would have been flooded. We got this chest at the bottom, so let's open this valve to empty out the water and then close it up again so that once we flood this area again, the chest will be much lighter. So we'll go back out, press that middle button this time to redistribute the water in here, and now the chest is floated to the top. We can click on that key, get another key, use it just to the right here and up, and now we can access the generator room. So let's head up in here, and just, you can see the battery we're charging mechanically here through some kinetic energy. I find 20 seconds gets it done, so just hold down that left mouse button for 20 seconds, and by the end of that time, that battery should be fully charged, and that'll give us some light so we can move about and see what we're doing in different areas. So now let's exit back out here. We have power, and just cross over this other ship, just keep moving in this direction, and you'll find a telescope at the top. So let's look for anything of note here in the telescope. There's a weird line right there, but here we go. At 135 degrees, we have a light right here. So 135, in case you were curious, yes, that will certainly be the solution to a puzzle in just a moment. So now we can head down into one of the brothers' bedrooms down here, courtesy of the light which we created from that generator. And before we grab the page, open the second to last bottom drawer right here, and you get half of a note. You can write this down if you're not following along with this Myst walkthrough, but we got you covered. This will give us instructions for later, but go to the bed here in Achenar's room. You can always tell by the sinister music which room is his. He's a little unhinged, a little unbalanced, but as you go back up, note the switch one floor up on the left. So the solution to this is to hit the button which corresponds with the 135 degrees. So here with the math on figuring that out, here is Blaze.
It's Blaze's best here in Item Sky. Alright, to find the right point, we just need to do a little bit of math, or better said, I'll do a little bit of math. So there's 32 points on here, we want 135, so 360 degrees divided by 32 points equals 11.25 per point. 135 divided by 11.25 is 12, so we want the 12th point clockwise from the top.
That's some good math, thank you very much, Blaze. A simpler way to remember it is it's the bottom right orange pointed button right there. So last, we need to access the exit here by pushing that left button this time. And this will empty out this final area, and we can see what we're doing because we hit that 135 degree corresponding button on that wheel. And then if you click on the table right here, the book will emerge, and we can take our page back to the library. And then just like last time, we're just gonna go right back in, this time re-entering the Stoneship Age, jumping back on that ship, and this time going into the other brother's bedroom. So you can follow along as we're doing that, but while we're doing that, we're gonna bring in Fluff for another Fluff fact about Myst. Fluff?
It's difficult to overstate how influential Myst was in the years following its release. Every major game studio wanted their own Myst. Ken Williams, the president of 90s adventure gaming design leader Sierra, called one of his employees into his office shortly after the game's release, produced a copy of Myst, and asked that developer if he could do that for Sierra. The game went on to become the more challenging Myst clone Lighthouse the Dark Being. Myst spawned countless copycat games, including what is arguably the first parody video game in the silly and crude Pissed, which imagines the island of Myst after millions of other gamers have visited and subsequently trashed it. It also features John Goodman as the ruler of Pissed Island, shown here relaxing in a hot tub. Even beyond the game's development community, Myst's reach almost even extended to theme parks, as Disney at one time was considering converting their now defunct Discovery Island into an interactive Myst-themed island, where visitors could explore and solve puzzles just like in the game. Released on Mac and PC on CD-ROM, the game was so popular that it and the aforementioned seventh guest were both credited as being hugely instrumental in popularizing and selling CD-ROM drives.
Thank you, Fluff, as we rifle through Sirrus's bedroom here. Clearly has his own issues. I was talking about Achenar earlier, but yeah, I don't know that Sirrus is that much better off. But to find his page, go in this bottom drawer, and then just exit on out like we did before, and we're gonna push once again the bottom right orange corresponding button right there to get some light in that exit area, and let's just pump out that area with the left. And I always do that, I always overshoot that. One of the challenges of Myst, aside from the puzzles sometimes in games like Myst, is just getting the character to go where you want them to go. With sometimes where you click doesn't necessarily take you where you thought you were going, and very easy to get turned around, and that's definitely going to be the case in this next area. Channelwood. I'm sure some people struggled with this one. I know I certainly did the first time I played this one. Very easy to get turned around, but Sirrus has his second page, third overall, I suppose, if you count the one that was just lying there waiting for us, but we're about halfway through the puzzles now. Alright, so no sense trying to make out what he's trying to say still to this point. Let's just move it to the next spot right here. That giant tree outside. Once again, we're going to go into the tower area to get a clue as to what we need to do here. One of the more finicky puzzles, I will say, coming up here in just a moment. If you climb the ladder, you can look out and you see that one massive tree, the mana tree of Myst. Emperor hasn't gotten that one yet. 724. 724. That's pretty straightforward. A lot easier to remember than 3 very random dates. As we crowd back in, and I always do that too. I always think I need to turn around in the elevator, but they automatically do that for you. But let's head on out. And this time we're going to head to that kind of secluded cabin that we did pull, admittedly, one of the levers or the switches near at the start of the game, but we haven't been back that way. So there's a way to cut through here, right there. Make that left. Not the easiest to spot. It's even more difficult to get to where we need to go after this. All right, so 724, there's a safe on the wall, and I make this comment a lot on our sister channel, Let's Play with Brigands, as we open the matchbox and then click on the striking spot right there to strike the match, and then just light the pilot light down there. Yeah, I'd say matches are the most ubiquitous item you will find in adventure games, but anyway, as we turn this wheel, just turn it all the way to the right, you'll start to see that little meter there on the display start to turn with our progress. And once we get this so that it can't turn any more to the right, you'll see that needle start to jump. You'll hear some explosions, and then we're going to back off the valve in the opposite direction, and we're going to head outside and try to find a sneaky cut through in the trees to get to this massive tree, which somehow acts as the entrance to the Channelwood. It's very convoluted, but just follow along with what we're doing and to take my mind off of this and all the patience you need to wait for that stupid tree to get in position where you can actually get inside of it. Let's go to Fluff for another Fluff fact about Myst. Fluff?
The Miller brothers took inspiration from a number of works, from the science fiction of Jules Verne, like The Mysterious Island, which Robin Miller was reading at the time, the scope of Star Wars' universe, the portals to other unique worlds, like featured in C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia, and even other games like the 1977 text adventure game Zork. The game is especially unconventional, as it provides little to no context as to the objective from the start of the game. Upon testing the game, the brothers found that the lack of an inciting incident was a major criticism, so they added the early and relatively easy puzzle solution, which unlocks the video where Achenar describes your objective in response to said criticism. The game is made up of 2,500 frames, one for every turn and unique screen in the game, and each of which purportedly took anywhere from hours to days to animate. The release of Apple's QuickTime allowed them to add the short movie clips, which would both drive the story and show the cinematic shots of the islands. Initially, the game had no music, as the Miller brothers believed it would interfere with the gameplay, though after some testing, they discovered music enhanced the atmosphere in choice locations, and Robin Miller went on to compose 40 minutes of synthesized music. The sound effects for the game were largely created by Chris Brandkamp, who was also in charge of cyan spending during development. The sound effects in Myst were notable for coming from a variety of unconventional sources, like the sound of a boiler fire being created by driving slowly over stones in a driveway. The game was also novel in that there was no inventory, no ways to die or violence in general, and the save system was only added upon the realization that it would take the average gamer weeks or months to complete the game.
Yeah, I remember a quote from one of the Miller brothers, and to paraphrase, they basically said if a player figures out a solution to a puzzle and blames the developers didn't do their job. But if the player figures out a solution and blames themselves, then they have done their job. So, just something I appreciate because I play a lot of adventure games with puzzles in need of solutions on our sister channel, Let's Play with Brigands. And yeah, I have that feeling a lot when I solve a puzzle and I'm like, that was the solution? My nice way of saying, do better. Don't get me started on moon logic, by the way, but anyway. No need to push the button or anything. It'll get down there in its own time. Certainly not our time, I will say that. But as it goes down one more, you can just make out... Nope, not yet. A couple more. There is a book. But that'll take us to the Channelwood, where water diversion is the name of the game. And everything is powered by water in this next area. I think you can just slide through there. But again, I don't want to risk being... just crushed within this poorly conceived access to the Channelwood area. But, all right, pop on out, open the book, and away we go into the Channelwood here. Get some nice shots of the windmill. That's going to be sort of our point of reference, that windmill, as that's where the water is coming from, and then we can step out from that area and then divert the water as necessary. But yeah, you also saw the tree houses in the background. That's going to be interesting navigating those, as you'll see in just a moment. So you get some nice swampy sounds here. Got some frogs, birds, crickets. As I said, we're going up to the windmill up here. And we can't hear the sound of water yet until we enter inside. So we need to turn on the tap here. Just give it a click. Exit on out. And you'll see every time there's a junction, or most times there's a junction, the water will go left or right depending on which way you have it closed off. It'll go the opposite direction. So we want it going left. Once again, we want it going left. It's already open. Here we need to change the course of the water to go over to that mechanism. So let's turn the switch. And this one's just automatically heading at that last junction, so we just come over here, and now that it is water powered, we can give that handle a flip, create a bridge for ourselves, make a right here at this next junction, and then turn this. We don't need this until we're ready to leave, but just a good idea to knock this out. And that elevator will take us to the exit, assuming it has water power. So now let's head back to the start, back to the windmill, and this time we want to divert the water to the right on this first, going left from that start, obviously. As you're just following along here, and then to the right once again. And then one last time, make sure it's going to the right, so hit that switch, and now the elevator will function if we close the door and pull that lever right there to head on up. And then this area can get a little tricky to navigate, so just go forward and then to the right, up a couple times, right, straight till you see that basket, and then hang a right, and then left through there, and then you'll get to this hut that has a little switch which will open the gate on that staircase. So now we just need to get over to that staircase, so you want to favor more to the right as you're exiting out for the most part. And then to follow along. I admit it's difficult to follow along when, again, just clicking in two slightly different areas can result in going completely different ways, but the staircase right there, which opened up, allows us to have a shortcut back to the windmill, divert the water to the right this time, make a hard left as soon as you come up the stairs, and then get in this elevator to go up to a second floor, or a third floor, I suppose, at this point, since we have the water powering this elevator. And this is where we'll find the pages of the two brothers, in Achenar and Sirrus. So just go straight all the way to the end. Once again, you can tell, yeah, this is Achenar's place, by the creepy, violent undertone music right there. But with that page in hand, head back to the elevator, head back down. Exit's pretty easy, just go out the elevator, hang right down those steps again. And then back to the start again, to the windmill or water mill, whatever you want to call it. You want to divert the water back to the left once again. Now we want it going right, which it should already be doing. We want it going right once again, which once again it should already be doing. And then this last junction, we want to make sure it's going to the left. So hit this last switch, and the water will go across the pipe, which we extended earlier now. So now we just need to follow back around, just kind of hugging and skip that first intersection. And just like we did when we first got here, going all the way around, but this time this elevator has water power, as you can hear. Hit that switch to rise up. And then you'll find a book in this one-off enclosed little tree house here, back to the library. And then getting the red page back in the Channelwood is pretty simple, as we just need to, we've already laid most of the groundwork or the water work. We just need to divert the water a bit from the start and head back up to that third floor, grab the red page for Sirrus, and exit back out the same way we just did. So while we're doing that, as we've been doing, let's go back for another Fluff fact with Fluff.
When you have a game as critically and commercially successful as Myst, you can generally expect sequels and remakes. Not to mention several dozen ports to all generations of consoles, computers, and even smartphones. Myst has been remade or repackaged a few times now, including 2000's Real Myst, which featured updates like the day-night cycle and a new age, 2014's Real Myst Masterpiece Edition, which featured further improved visuals, and the 2020 VR remake. Myst was followed up with a direct sequel in 1997's Riven, which continues the events here at the end of Myst, which, small spoiler alert, the ending of this game basically amounts to a big pitch for said next game. After the release of Riven, Robin Miller departed Cyan to branch out into non-gaming projects. Interestingly enough, Robin criticized the aforementioned 2000's Real Myst, which Cyan put out. Despite Cyan describing the remake as the game they would have originally made, if not for technology constraints, Robin Miller claimed that that wasn't, in fact, how they had originally envisioned Myst when he was still with the company. so maybe a little soft jousting there between brothers from afar at the time. While other developers took over the duties for 2001's Myst 3 Exile and 2004's Myst 4 Revelation in Presto Studios and Ubisoft Montreal respectively, Cyan came back on board to develop a spin-off in 2003's Uru Ages Beyond Myst and 2005's Myst 5 End of Ages, which ended the series. Now appropriately known as Cyan Worlds, in addition to the occasional Myst remakes, the company has since put out a couple original projects which began as Kickstarters in 2016's Abduction and 2023's Firmament, with Robin Miller returning in a composer role on the former.
Thank you, Fluff, and just skipping ahead as I didn't want to wait for that tree again, so let's just go through it very quickly once again. Very simple this time, just head back to the start, divert the water to the right so we can access that third floor by way of the elevator, and this time we're going to grab Sirrus's Red Page at the top. And note there's little trinkets you can mess with in various areas of this game. They don't have anything to do with the puzzles, they just reveal more of the story basically here and there, like this right here. I think he said the red page is in the other room. I think if my that language is up to snuff. You can mess with this though. Yeah, maybe don't mess with that. Anyway, so Sirrus this is back in Achenar's room. Sirrus is back at the opposite side. You can play some recordings on that machine back in Achenar's room there if you want to hit the different buttons, but we're just showing you the solutions to all the puzzles here. So yeah, if you hung left, back at that elevator, you find yourself in Sirrus's room, and here is the right half of that note. Essentially, it's telling us to flip all of the switches up except for the one at the dock, and we'll use that very late in the game, which we're coming up on actually, but still a few pages left to get some, I don't know, he's got some odd taste, Sirrus. They both really do, but there's the red page in the drawer by the window right there, with the windmill, watermill in the distance. Well, let's head back once again, same way as before, just should this time only need to divert the water from that starting spot. Everything else should still be in its proper orientation as we had it before. So let's give that a shot. So head left here, left, just keep going left essentially, and then follow the bridge across, and you should hear the sound of the water. Yeah, Myst, not a game for deaf people when it first came out, or those hard of hearing, I have to say. Many, many years before accessibility became more of the norm. I do believe that they have in the options section of the Masterpiece Edition, which I'm playing right here, that there is a slight accessibility tweak for an upcoming puzzle, which is sound-based, but not any more so really than any others, so. Anyway, one page left before we can make heads and tails of what Sirrus and Achenar are trying to say, but before that we have one final area to go through, and we finally get to work with the spaceship, which is sitting over there just next to the library when we hang a right. But before we do that, you know the drill. One last time, we're going to head back into the tower. Let's move this to the rocket ship at the top right there. Now, after it's moved, we'll head into the tower and get one final clue as to how we might access the final, that is the Selenitic Age. So we head back up to the tower one last time. Get a nice tasteful shot of the rocket ship if you look out that way. Did I call it a Zeppelin earlier? I think I did. Some sort of space rocket ship. Alright, 59 volts. Good to know. All right, so we can't go straight to the rocket ship. I'm telling you, I'm never not going to instinctively try to turn around, even though they automatically do it for me. All right, we're going to go to one last area we have not yet been to outside as we tick the door painting one last time. And that would be the kind of utility shed as we take a look at the Selenitic Age book right here. By the way, we haven't taken a look at the Briggs notes. I think it's pretty obvious. Let's bring him in maybe historically late for one of our Video Games 101 classes, but just follow this guide. I think that's been pretty straightforward by now. I think we're all on the same page there, no pun intended. So to get to where we're going, head down to the clock tower and then make a right before you get there. Duck in here. And now to reach the 59 volts which we need, just enter this combination right here, this button combination. I'm going to do the second from the bottom in the left column first, and then the second, third, and fourth from the top on the right. And all that together will add up to 59 volts, which you need. And now we can go access the Selenitic Age by way of that rocket ship, which is again just a left at the library. And there is one final code which we need to input here, a musical code. So this one's a little tricky to explain. Just essentially you want to hit the right notes. The keyboard is behind us, and so we would need to match the notes from the book to the keys on the organ behind us, and then from those notes we would input those notes in the corresponding order right here with these sliders. It's kind of tricky. So basically, in my experience, you just got to pull from the bottom. And let's just say the default position is number 1. We want to get it up to 8 for that first one, 20 for the second one. Every note counts as 1, so just every time the note goes up 1, just count that as another one. We want to do this 20 times right here. And then you can sort of just line up the next ones. Like the next one's 23, so if we match the 20 and then just go up 3 from there, that's easy enough. If you just want to match that note as well, that works. That's a little shortcut for you, but that's the note it's meant to be. And that's the third note right there. This one's 13, so kind of in between there from the 8 and the 20. And then finally, lowest one, it's just 6 notes up, or 5 up, I should say. It's 6 overall. So 8, 20, 23, 13, 6, left to right. And that's assuming 1 is the lowest note. And we're headed to the final area here, the Selenitic Age. First half of this area is not too difficult. It's just more about not getting turned around. And we need to find 5 buttons which we can push, related to 5 elements, if you will, plus a clock and a crystal. So not really, but... Alright, so walk out a few paces and then take a left and just go straight ahead. And you'll find some water mic'd up here. We're activating the microphone, I suppose, by pushing this button. And there's the blue page. We're going to skip that just because the red one's a bit deeper end, so I'm going to focus on that for our first trip here. So just for context where we are, we headed back to the main area. There's that shed we passed at the start. Now we're just going to continue on. Make a left at the end of the path and push for the fire. If we looked over the ledge, you'd find it right there. And once again, for reference, before we hit this one, there's that shed once again. But we're just going to continue on, taking a right at that fork, essentially, if we came from that shed, and press the clock-related button there. Go to the edge of this path, and you'll find the crystal button, and you'll find the red page, which we will take. You can see it's a bit farther off the path. And now we're going to make a right at the fork as we come back. And it's a little easy to get turned around here, but just chase this to the very end. One final button for the wind. And now we are going to go descend down this ladder and flip that switch right there to light up the way. Pass through to the other side. Then we need to punch in some coordinates on this interface up here to rotate the parabolic microphone looking thing, whatever the dish is, I suppose. So first we got to find the water, and you want to make sure there's no interference, so 153.4. And then we move on to the next one. This is the fire. Set this to 130.3. Only 1/10 of a position is gonna get rid of all the noise in the background, so that's what we want. It's 55.6 for the clock ticking here. Here we are. And this one is just 15 for the crystal. They used a similar sound effect in the Dig, actually. Another fantastic, more of an adventure game, I suppose, point and click of the 90s. But, and then the wind, 212.2. Push the button once you got them all punched in. And it shows you the order in which you want to go ahead and use those for one final musical combination. Why? One final. There's the most frustrating part, maybe of the entire game coming up, which does require sound, but that it's more of a throwback to something we did much earlier. So now we're going to go back to that shack, and we're going to input the musical combination by moving each slider until we get the order of crystal, water, wind, fire, and then the clock. Get a train, there's a lot of decoy sound effects in there. Water's at the bottom. Wind is at the top. Don't even have to worry about those. Fires just down there, and the clock just beyond that. Push the button once you've got all 5 of those sounds in that order, and the door will open up. Thankfully, we will not have to do that again. That'll all stay when we come back for the blue page. Same can't be said for the exit. This is, the most frustrating part of the game. So remember our system from earlier as we enter the Mazerunner here. Probably the most infamous of all the puzzles. So if you didn't make out the different sound effects and the directions which they corresponded to earlier, well, first off, we got you covered right here. But, so each sound relates to a different direction. So that ping is north. Mentioned that earlier back when we were in the, I guess it was the mechanical age. So the next sound effect, that's the scrunch, I think I called it, so that's west. If you ever forget the sound that you just heard, you can push that button and it will remind you. But essentially, yes, north is the ping, west is the scrunch, east is the spring, and then south is that cowbell. And sometimes they'll layer 2 sounds on top of each other to refer to, like a northwest, they'll do the north and the west on top of each other. So a little tricky, but we've got the directions posted up at the bottom for this part. So just every time you go through a turn, go to the next one and just punch it in and go step by step. For what it's worth, you can kind of piece together at the start which sound goes with what direction, because they kind of herd you for the first few moves, so you can just tell by process of elimination, oh, I can only go west, and that's the sound I'm hearing, so that's the sound for west, and then get that going as you move forward. But yeah, definitely doesn't need to take this long. And don't forget, we need to come back here also to get that other page, so... But just keep going move by move, following the directions we have at the bottom. We'll get there together, class. In time. Alright, southeast for the last one here. I get turned around sometimes, moving left to right. Just trying to focus on making sure I don't take the wrong turn, because then you second guess yourself, and backtracking is never a good time, but finally made it. And being that the second run through is just exactly the same, just grabbing the blue page from the water as mentioned earlier, we're just going to go ahead and cut ahead. Just you got the directions, it's the exact same way as you leave the second time. But let's put the red page in. And then jump ahead with the blue page, and let's finally hear what these guys have to say. So we put both pages in, and now we're going to actually open the book and see what he says.
I'm Achenar. I'm glad to see that you've returned to help me escape from my wrongful imprisonment. It was Sirrus who did this to me. Sirrus, my wicked brother. Do not listen to him. I warn you. He's a liar. Do not be persuaded by his evil lies. Do not believe him. He killed my father. He will kill you. It began when my brother Sirrus began to lust for riches. He stole from the ages of Myst. He hoarded riches for himself. My father slept away his watchfulness. My sick brother secretly pronounced himself king. King of the ages of Myst, he said. He began to look upon me in disgust. His lowly brother. Sirrus began to destroy the ages of Myst. He burned their forests. He tore down their structures. He flooded their lands. He murdered their inhabitants. He destroyed all but 4 of the ages. Of course, I had to warn Father. When I finally found him, there was Sirrus also, talking cleverly. The lying tongue of a serpent. He'd convinced Father that it was I who destroyed the ages. He convinced Father that it was I who was greedy for wealth and plunder. And as Sirrus dealt the final blow, he tricked Father into believing that I was the murderer. But Sirrus did not deal as fast a blow as he planned. And his father died a slow death. He at last doubted my brother's clever lies, and so in dying, Father imprisoned us both. Not sure from which of us the blow had come. I swear to you what I say is true. Release me. You must release me. My brother's a deceitful liar and deserves punishment. I only wish vengeance for my dear father. His murder. Believe me. You must only recover 1 additional page to release me from this prison. It's the easiest to find. Go to the bookshelf. It's in this library. On the far right side of the middle shelf, there's a burned book, which is different from the other burned books. This book is filled with patterns. Find pattern 158. Mimic its design on the panel in the fireplace. Doing this will bring you the last blue page. Remember, take the red page. Only the blue page. Return quickly to me. And do not touch the green book. It's a clever trap to imprison those who have not been warned. Do not be tempted, or you will rot and die, imprisoned as I am. I tell you, if you follow my instructions, it will be well worth your while. I promise you that. Go. Go.
Alright, I'm not sure I trust Achenar, but let's see what Sirrus has to say. Probably the same thing, probably. My brother's responsible. And don't give him his last page.
You finally returned. I owe you a debt of gratitude, for you have nearly released me. My name is Sirrus. I trust that from your explorations you've become convinced that my wicked brother Achenar is guilty, and I am innocent. It is I who am wrongly imprisoned here. Imprisoned by my father. I don't know who you are, or how you came to this island, but I assume you must at least know something of the books. His father was a master of the books. He wrote hundreds, all describing and linking to the fantastic places and ages which he had discovered. The room in which you now stand was our father's library. It was here in this room, on this island named Myst, that he housed most of these books. But such a waste. By now, well, surely you discovered that Achenar had burnt mutilated most of these books. Why? Our father was always watchful of our explorations. We grew up under his strict supervision. But when we came of age, he gave us unbridled access to the Myst books. He began to leave our adventures more and more unchecked. Unsupervised as we were, my brother began to become disturbed. He began to take more from the Myst ages than he had given. Soon he gained a twisted pleasure from the conquest and destruction of the other ages. It was horrific. His thirst for destruction. But alas, even I discovered his insanity too late. He had completely destroyed all of the Myst ages but 4. I wasted no time. In warning my father, I thought he would recognize Achenar's guilt. but in a fit of rage, he imprisoned both my brother and myself within the pages of these books, designed to hold us until he could judge which of us was guilty. To discover the truth, our father embarked on one final chapter. However, he has never returned. I can only assume that he perished along the way, leaving me, an innocent victim, entrapped forever. But now, you are here to release me. Listen carefully. You must find one more page and I will be forever free. There is a book on the shelves in this library which is mostly burned but has a few pages still intact. It is the last book on the middle shelf. Find it. This book is filled with a variety of patterns. Find pattern 158 and recreate it on the door of the fireplace. This will bring you to the last red page. Bring that page to me, and I will finally be released, and able to reward you, of course. Ignore the blue page. That page finishes my brother's book. It chills me to even think what would happen if you were to release him. There is another warning. Where the red and blue pages reside, also resides a green book. If you touch the green book, you also will be imprisoned forever. Our father gave us this same warning long ago. I suggest you follow his advice. Go now. Soon we will be face to face.
All right, so page 158 of the final book, which we haven't looked at yet. Looks like it's just another broken book, torn up there on the far right, but as you open it up, you'll see what looks like a bunch of puzzle solutions, and that's effectively what it is. We want number 158, as Sirrus was kind enough to point out. So memorize that, or just, as always, follow along and watch what we do here. So once you've got that pattern, let's go to the fireplace. And now we literally input it by pressing into the stone right here. So it's, there's a lot going on. Yeah, on those last two columns, that's the fun part, punching all those in. Most of the entire bottom row. And always just give it one last look, make sure you didn't miss anything. Once you got it, hit that button again. If you got it wrong, it'll just open up the fireplace again and you'll have to try it again. But if you did it right, here's the final red page and the final blue page. How about that? And a green book. This is the one they mentioned.
Who the devil are you? Don't come here to Dunny. Not yet. Oh, I have many questions for you, my friend. As you no doubt have for me. Where should I begin? Oh. Perhaps my story is in order. My name is Achenar. I fear you've met my sons, Sirrus and Achenar, in the red and blue books on Myst Island. In my library. Oh, it contains my works, my writings. Oh, I wrote many books that linked me to fantastic places. It's an art I learned from my father many years ago. Oh, but the red and blue books, those were different. I wrote those books to entrap over-greedy explorers that might stumble upon my island of Myst. But I had no idea my own sons would be entrapped. My sons, Sirrus and Achenar, we had many journeys together. I gave them free rein to the books. Perhaps it was not wise. I could see the greed growing in them. I had not told them about the red and blue books. Their imaginations went wild. They dreamed of riches and power. Of course, they did not know the books were traps. They begged me for access to those books, and I, of course, denied them. They devised a plan. An evil plan. I had no idea to what extent their greed had progressed. Their own mother. They used their own mother. Oh, my dear Catherine. To lure me here to Dunny. Of course, I could return to Myst, except that they removed a single page from my Myst linking book. I cannot return without that page. You, my friend, can bring that page to me. Oh, I pray you believe my story above the lies that my sons have told you. If you could find it in yourself to return that page to me here in Dunny, I could go to Myst.
I'll buy us an ice
bring
cream.
justice to my sons for what they've
All right, so the final page. Yeah, the brothers warned us not to jump into this book.
I pray that you believe me. Please hurry. Bring the page. Bring the page with you.
All right, so we got to find one last page. And putting together those two pieces of the notes that we found earlier, I mentioned this, kind of alluded to this, that as we push that button again to get sent back to the library, that the key to getting that final page is to make sure all of the switches are flipped, except for the one at the dock, that first one. So let's head back down to the dock. Head on down the stairs, turn around, and then flip it down. All the others should be up, and if you flip that one down, that panel will open, and you'll find the final page here in Myst. So let's head back and put in that combination again. And you can actually beat this game, in case you were wondering, in probably about a minute and a half, because all you got to do is flip all the switches. You do have to put in the clock tower 240 time at the start of the game, but other than that, yeah, you can instantly get that page, put in this code here in the fireplace, take this page, and we can now enter his book, page in hand. But before we give it to him, Gary, how about you show us the other endings, the bad endings, here in Myst?
It's Scary Gary's Boss Beaters.
So there are 4 different endings in Myst, depending on the actions you take at the end of the game. While the professor will cover the best ending, I'm here to tell you that if you put the final red or blue page in Sirrus or Achenar's respective books, you'll swap places with said brother, while Sirrus or Achenar tear out the pages while laughing maniacally or smugly, respectively, leaving you trapped in that book, presumably for all of eternity.
Oh, yes! Yes, I'm free! Oh, thank you, my friend. My dear friend. You've done the right thing. You stupid fool! It looks like perhaps you're in the book now. And what have we here? A page. Oh no. I hope you enjoy your new home as much as I enjoyed it. I can't see you. You're getting less clear. I hope you're in the books. The library looks much the same as I left. Oh, Achenar. I feel alive. And how do you feel, my friend? Oh, whatever here. Perhaps pages you work so hard for. Whoops. Yes. Perhaps you're seeing the world from my point of view. Yes. Sirrus. There's my brother. Oh, yes. Maybe someone will rescue you someday. You lose.
The third bad ending results if you don't heed Atris's warning and enter his green book before you retrieve the final page, thus trapping you in that book, presumably once again for all of eternity. But at least in that case, you've got some company.
You've returned. We meet face to face. And the page, did you bring the page? You didn't bring the page. You didn't bring the page. I deplore you. Oh. Did you not take my warning seriously? Welcome to Dunny. You and I will live here forever.
The final and only good ending involves entering the green book with that missing page and, well, I'll let the professor take it from here.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, a lot of bummer endings where we get trapped. This is the one exception. Don't show up here without page in hand. Come on over here. Eventually, he can be bothered to look up from his book.
Give me the page. Please give the page.
That's going to make me laugh showing up without the page, but
You've done the right thing.
hand it over to him. And let's enjoy the ending here. Anticlimactic as it is.
My sons have betrayed me. I know what I must do. I shall return shortly. It is done. I have many questions for you, my friend. But my writing cannot wait. I fear that my long delay may have already had a catastrophic impact on the world in which my wife, Catherine, is now being held hostage. Oh. In reward, I'm sorry, but all I have to offer you is the library on the island of Myst, the books that are contained there. Feel free to explore at your leisure. I hope you find your explorations satisfying. no longer have my sons to deal with. Oh, and one more favor. I am fighting a foe much greater than my sons would even imagine. At some point in the future, I may find it necessary to request your assistance. Until that point, feel free to enjoy the explorations from my library on Myst. Thank you again. The book. You can use the Myst linking book to return to Myst.
So the ending is just basically a big pitch for Myst 2, Riven, essentially. And yeah, and he says you can keep playing the game, but there's, not much else to do. Just enjoy the scenery. But wow, I guess that's how he dealt with Sirrus and Achenar. Just burned them up. That's cold, but you know what? I think they deserved it. Tried to manipulate us. We saw what happened in the bummer endings. They tried to trap us, so there you go. But yeah, Myst, veritable classic from the 90s, and just spawned countless, as Fluff mentioned, clones, parodies, what have you. But yeah, there's a couple more screens around the island you can check out, but that's the ending right there. Myst. Big thanks to all my TAs today for helping me out. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to enroll in Video Games 101. We do one of these classes every single week in the same spot. Love to have you enrolled. Click that like button too, it really does help us out to make future classes for you, and leave a comment. When did you beat this one? Have you ever beaten this one? Did you play it as a kid, and did you just end up getting stuck early on? I never really played it until later in life, I have to say. Despite all the hype, just never happened, so very glad to finally get around to it, and certainly here on Video Games 101, but that's our time for this week. We'll see y'all next week in the same spot for next week's class, right here on Video Games 101. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and comment on this video, and click subscribe if you haven't already, as this seriously helps me to keep making great content for you. And check the description of this video to see what song is playing right now.